It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas everywhere you go.
Hi, I'm Rochelle Butler, and welcome to another episode of Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. You'll notice today I'm in a different setting from my normal studio gym and treatment room. I'm here in the UK Surrey countryside in this beautiful kitchen with one Donna Crous. Hi, Donna.
Hi, Rochelle.
Thanks for having me here in your home and joining me on this episode. I'm going to be chatting to Donna today about a Freefrom Christmas menu. We're going to be talking about different options to put on that menu, because for me, and I know for a lot of people who've cooked Freefrom, your Christmas meal ends up looking more and more like a Sunday roast, because with doing Freefrom, you start moving away from the typical Christmas flavors.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to changing that. And we're actually going to show me, and we're going to be making some mince pies, which are gluten-free, so wheat-free, sugar-free.
Well, sugar-free to a degree, because there's still raisins in them and there's still natural sugars, but no processed sugars.
No processed sugars. So that doesn't, and we have to correct here, sugar-free doesn't mean no sweet taste, right?
Yes,
There is
exactly.
sweet
That's
taste.
exactly it. So flavors, so the sweetness is coming through from all the natural products, so the raisins, the apples, and those sort of ingredients that we add to it.
And then you're going to also show me one thing that I said to you I've never ever cooked with, or dare even think of even bringing to the table, is the Brussels sprouts.
Yes, famous Brussels sprouts.
But you've convinced me that they'll be tasty, and then they'll also be, I guess, crispy and low carb.
Yeah, well, I mean, just...
as they are.
Yeah,
they're beautiful as they are, but in
Yeah.
general. So that's to look forward to. That's going to be the hands-on bit. Now, Donna possesses the enviable skill of being able to whip up or just develop a recipe. And the reason that's of value to me and anybody who's cooked Freefrom is because if you've ever had to take, want to make dairy-free pancakes or bake gluten-free, you've discovered that it's not as simple as just replacing the ingredients or substituting. But you have sorted all of that out, and you have gone, right, here's easy, simple recipes, and this is how they can taste nice and look good.
I try to make them as easy as possible, and that most people are terrified of cooking at home and baking at home, especially when it comes to using ingredients that they don't know. And a lot of them have had absolute failures and then decided that they don't know how to use a certain ingredient and never want to go back to it again. The thing with Freefrom baking, particularly wheat-free baking, is that you don't always necessarily use one form of flour. So, normally with the regular flour, you would just pop in a couple of cups of flour and you would bake. But using these ingredients, you normally have to use a combination of different flours, because they all have certain attributes that will add to the end result to get that sort of wheat-free texture.
Because one of the big things with gluten-free or baking in general is that what's quite tricky is you wanting it to look like the wheat flour based thing.
Exactly.
And already gluten-free, I would think it provides quite a bit of texture, which I think you need to work with. And also it doesn't possess gluten, which is the actual protein in it, which gives it that bouncy fluffiness.
Yeah.
So you've got to take that into account, right?
It's more the stickiness. It's more the gluing together, because that's what gluten does. Is it holds the flour together. So once that's removed, you can end up with a very dry, very crumbly finished result.
We've all been there.
So, and we have, and I think that's the problem, is that most people think that gluten-free is crumbly, dry,
no, it needn't be
terrible, sort of sticky, not even sticky, just really just fall apart and sort of very bland cooking. What you often find is when you buy gluten-free products from the supermarkets, they've been loaded with a lot of extra sugars to add flavor and to add texture to the flours. So it's really just learning the combinations of the different flours.
It's practice, isn't it? But that's with any cooking, Freefrom or not, isn't it?
It's practice, and it's just having, once you start to explore a few recipes, you end up with the ingredients in your pantry. A lot of people will look at it and go, no, I'm not going to make that because it's got X ingredients. But it's worthwhile investing in the different flours, in the different ingredients. And then they last for ages in the cupboard, and then you open to any recipe that's
and what I've noticed also about your recipes, which you post for free on your website, 80/20 Nutrition, and on your Instagram account, the same name.
Donna Crous.
Oh, is it under your name?
It's under my name.
Under your name, Donna Crous. So Crous.
Yes.
Yeah.
C-R-O-U-S.
The recipes call for ingredients which are very easily sourced. We're not talking unicorn dust and frog's legs and things like that. It's all simple. A lot of stuff, certainly in the UK, you can get in the supermarket.
Yes, for sure. I mean, most of the time what I'll do is I'll actually link on my recipes, I'll actually link them through to Amazon. So you can either get to have a good look at what the product looks like on the Amazon site. You don't have to necessarily purchase it. Or you can purchase it directly with the Amazon site. I get mine from a number of different places. I mean, obviously Amazon's easy, but if I'm in the middle of baking and I need something urgently, I can get it from a good health shop. I can pop down to a good health shop and go and get it. So
and like anything, I mean, your background in general, you've come to this through this cooking through much like myself, necessity, health reasons with your daughter, as with me, with my son who's severely allergic to eggs and dairy. But anyway, there's a strong belief in whole foods, right?
Yes.
Just making good, wholesome choices with regards to your foods.
Absolutely. And I think there's a big drive at the moment for mums who are wanting to produce foods that are less sugar loaded, less salt loaded, less, and just to know what the ingredients are in their children's food. So they don't even need to have an allergy or intolerance to something. I think the people that I'm meeting along the way now are all really looking to improve their family's wellness and health, and just to know exactly what is going into all their products.
And the thing with that then is sourcing those products. So we've spoken about Amazon, which is quite useful for sourcing specific things. Like I said, in the UK, the supermarkets are quite good about stocking quite a few of those ingredients. Not all, but quite a few. But then also that comes down to, and if we look at the Christmas menu, there's obviously the big focus is the big meat, the turkey, or whatever meat you decide to do. Butchers, to go visiting your good old-fashioned local butcher.
Absolutely, your good old-fashioned local butcher. You can go and you can ask where the meat has been sourced from, where it's been, and normally it's in a region quite close to home.
Sure.
And your butcher will know exactly where the meat has come from. And there are many online butcheries as well that you can order from. If you sort of start a monthly debit order, you can have good quality meat delivered frozen to your door.
Because you use Farmer's Choice, don't you?
Yes, I use Farmer's Choice.
So we're putting out a link at the end of the episode where Donna has very kindly given us a link where you actually then get £25 credited to your account for any future orders. So look out for that at the end. But they stock a wide range of cuts.
They do. They stock a wide range of, and what I love about them is that they do really good quality poultry and pork, and they do buffalo. They do so they do a nice,
some interesting
really good range
with.
of different types of meats, and obviously lamb, beef, that sort of thing. But the pork is sort of wild reared. And what I also like about them is that on all of their labels that you get on their products, it will state the name of the farm, so you know exactly which farm it's come from.
Oh, that's good.
So there is sort of there is an ethos around it that exactly, and you could probably even ask them if you could go and see the farms if you really wanted to. So it's about knowing.
And then there's a general because of perhaps the growing number of allergies, or even if we're all benefiting from the trend that is being off certain foods and foodstuffs. We'll all benefit from that, because what it means is that more butchers are sourcing locally and being conscious about where they get their stuff from. So actually, even if you don't order online, your local butcher is still first there.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, to make your meat sustainable, to ensure that it's been grass fed, it's been reared properly, it's been reared in the correct conditions. It's been fed good quality food and obviously had pasture time, I think is what's most important.
Exactly, and even if you're not doing it from the health sort of reason or any sort of moral conscious or ethos, it actually helps the flavor, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the flavor, the texture. You don't need to cook it for as long. You don't need to flavor it for as long. And there's just something about good quality meat that you can't hide.
And you don't even have to be an expert to know. When you're eating something.
Exactly. You can't hide food like meat.
Okay.
I mean, unless you really curry it to do something crazy large to it. But a good roast that comes from a well-reared animal is just, you can't compete with that. I mean, that's just, and you know, I mean, generally they don't always end up to be more expensive than supermarket. I mean, I often used to buy organic meat before I found my meat supplies. I used to buy organic from some of the supermarkets. And it actually works out cheaper to go to the butcher and buy a really good quality cut of meat than it does to go and buy, you know, maybe organic from a supermarket. That still comes in packaging and all of that.
Well, and I found when you're buying from a butcher or when things are getting delivered like that, you're far more engaged in your meal prep because you're going, right, this meat's arrived, I've got to cook it now, I've got to use it now. So I think it kind of feeds all of that.
Absolutely.
So coming back to the Christmas menu, we're going to start with the pastry for the mince pies, which again, that's one thing. I like mince pies. I've never bothered making it home because I don't like rum. And then gluten-free, well, the gluten-free ones I've tasted, again, they never get the pastry right for me. So you're going to prove me wrong on both accounts.
I am going to prove you wrong.
But for the meal in itself is quite a healthy meal anyway. A Christmas meal it's usually the other extras and all the alcohol and the sweets before that take it off the healthy scale. But if we remove that for a moment and just concentrate on the free-from stuff, the main course itself is quite easily free from. The meat is just the meat. If you need it to be nut-free, you can do a different alternative stuffing, so that if that's up your street. The vegetables, pretty plain, again, so that should cover all necessary free-from diets. So the real place, and this is where I get stuck with my Christmas meals for over the years, is that I then get stuck with the desserty things, because I want it to have a flavor of Christmas, which is the rums and all of that, but they're not typically what my 13-year-old is gunning for, and then also they just often include the dairies and things like that. So,
and the other thing I've also found is that buying from the supermarket, all the sort of the free-from section doesn't really support sort of celebration times
exactly.
sort of festivities, and so you can, it's very difficult to find free-from products. I mean,
so my son's often having a completely different meal to what the rest of us are having.
So he's having what he would have on any other Sunday,
exactly.
Because there is no special ice cream for him. You know, so it's and I think that's what's driven me a lot towards the more the baking side as well, is the fact that the rest of the meal is pretty stock standard, and you can make up your potatoes, you can make up your veggies, you can make up your meats. But it's doing the smaller things that really make that person feel that they're actually included.
And then it's always a special treat. And I know for me over the years, because one of the first areas that I sort of nailed with regards to the free-from cooking was the baking, because as a kid you can imagine the sweet things are what matter, right? So I took great delight in serving at his birthday parties the free-from cakes and everything, which everybody thought was delicious.
Exactly.
And I think if we can get that right at a Christmas meal, where everybody's eating the same food, those who have to have the free-from are doing it, and those who don't are still enjoying it. So that works.
Well, that's sort of how our family started to eat this way, is because we had my youngest daughter who we were told we had to take off wheat, dairy, and sugar. But at the same time, we were told, well, the rest of you won't suffer by doing the same thing. So why don't you all just do it at the same time? And so since then, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, that's how our family has eaten. So yeah, I mean, it's if you can just fiddle around and play around a little bit and get these things, get the confidence. You can actually get to the point where the whole family is eating the same without actually anybody feeling like they're missing out on anything.
They're missing out, exactly. So most of your recipes are, I should just add, are largely paleo, which largely is wheat-free.
Yes.
Gluten-free, wheat-free. But then on there, like I say, you've got dairy-free, nut-free, sugar-free recipes. So.
Yeah, you know, I mean, as a recipe comes together, I might sometimes have to put dairy into it, or I may sometimes have to put a little bit of a sugar alternative. So I like to use coconut sugar for that. And, you know, as it comes together, then I'll decide where it fits in. For me, at the end of the day, it's just about knowing all my products, and just being able to put together something that is homemade.
Yes.
You know, that's homemade that my family love.
I will add that your website, 80/20 Nutrition, sums up exactly your attitude, and this is, I really resonate with this about the 80-20 rule, right?
Yes.
You try to be good, spot on, all of that most of the time, but it's not always practical, not always possible. And if you have no, adverse side effects, so like for instance the dairy, my son is anaphylactic, so he can't the odd occasion have dairy, but he's not allergic to gluten, and I generally do have him gluten-free. But if we're out and that's the only bread that's available, then that's what you do, right?
For sure. I mean, we try not to push it too much onto other people because it's
unsociable.
Well, absolutely, it's a personal lifestyle choice that we've made, and we found that socially it does make people very uncomfortable when they're entertaining, when
what are we going to serve? Oh my God, what can I make?
I mean, we originally started off with masses of phone calls saying, can you have this and can you have that, and are you allowed this and are you allowed that, and it's not a matter of being are you allowed or not. No. It's about what you can tolerate. Sure. And we, my daughter has intolerances, it's not anaphylactic, and at the end of the day we just say, as long as we're under our roof, we stick to the 80%. And when we go out, we'll have the 20%. Sure. It just makes life so much easier. And it means that we've been able to stick to it for the last 8 or 9 years.
It's made it a lifestyle
instead of feeling like it's a diet where if you fall off the tracks, you failed. Yeah,
absolutely.
So it's more, it feels like a lifestyle.
And your recipes are literally just from playing around, yeah?
Yeah, just from...
Because you've got no real... It's not like you've trained as a chef or anything.
No, I've got no...
Such admiration
no formal training. It's just from a desire to be able to... It was more about Kyra, my daughter, being able to go to a birthday party and to be able to take a cake with her and not feel like she was a cupcake and not feel like she was being...
Yeah, but that's where my intention stopped. After that, I thought, well, you've got the sweet treat. And then I just, with regards to the food, it became, I'll just have the plain grilled food.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I think that, when they're younger, it's so important that they're not left out and that their friends aren't laughing at them or that they're not being made a scene of or somebody's fussing over them. So
now you've contributed with your recipes to quite a few quite a few recipe books, but
I have been involved in quite a few recipe books, but more on the photography side. I do contribute my recipes I have in the past contributed recipes to Freefrom magazine, to Freefrom Heaven, and to the vegan magazine. That's the sister company.
And of course, your creative talents don't just end with the cooking and the baking. You are a keen photographer, and that's where you make your UK food blogger of the year. But if you only have to go on your Instagram site, I mean, that is food porn right there, isn't it? But you're also quite keen to show me, because when we met, we chatted about the little design we're going to be putting on top of our mince pies. And I said to you, wow, that must have taken forever. And you went, no, that's the point, right?
That's it.
Your recipes have to be easy and simple to do. So while it's a great photograph and it looks all very artistic, and they do, the bottom line is...
Well, that's the thing. I mean, actually, my main business is food photography and styling. But I often, and I always get asked, do you do stuff to your food to make it better than, to really sort of jazz it up for the pictures? And I have to be honest, I can't, because I want you to be able to go home and make the same thing.
Yes.
So I can't jazz it up and make it look unbelievably stunning.
Unachievable.
Well, that's exactly it. And then you go and try it and it just looks like an absolute flop. Yes, a lot of the stuff like to do the roses today, the rose petals today, it takes time and it takes effort. But if you've got that time and you've got the inspiration, then anybody can do it. It doesn't. You don't need sort of fancy equipment and a degree in pastry making skills or anything to be able to do it.
So thanks so much for sharing. And again,
such a pleasure.
What I keep highlighting with everybody I've worked with here is just how everybody's so keen to share, and it's so lovely when people are just really just helping other people out, because there's no point in suffering on your own.
Well, I know that I did when I first started. I know how challenging and how difficult it is to do. The best way to get a hold of me is on Instagram. Send me a direct message, and I always try and get back to people, especially when it comes to the baking related questions, because I know how tough it is. I know how tough it is when you're cooking something and you're going,
I just can't make it.
It's a bit like pancakes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it won't work the first time, but then the next time
Yeah.
it'll work. So
Yeah.
it's.
Well, I think what we did today looks fairly standard and foolproof. I stood with you the whole way, so I saw.
You did. You saw that there was nothing fancy involved.
no trickery going
There was
on.
no trickery.
Thanks so
Yes,
much, Donna.
absolutely.
And we'll definitely chat to you again. We'll be doing some more, I think, on Freefrom cooking again.
Perfect.
So,
Thank you for
allergy
having me.
cleansing. Thanks so much.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas everywhere you go. Take a look in the 5 and 10, glistening once again with candy canes and silver